Hello everyone, welcome to Carrow Road. Let me do this for you. Sorry. It's finished here. Norwich 1, Watford 3. I have been shaking my head for about almost 2 hours now. The press duties have taken quite a long time, and here I am now in front of you. So this did not go to plan. I felt like I did my bit in the week building up to this. I was pretty confident actually Norwich would show up and do what they needed to do. Felt like they'd had the high gearing of their difficult start. There'd been positives in a lot of the games, and we obviously had Daniel Farke's attempts at a rallying cry before the game, calling on the fans to really stop getting at the players and be as one. And in fairness, the supporters produced a lot of noise at the start, and they were with the team for most of the game. As it so happened, though, the players on the pitch couldn't deliver it. They couldn't deliver what was necessary to pick up a Premier League point, never mind a win. And we ended the game with one substitution getting booed, which was wrong, to be honest, and boos ringing out at the full-time whistle. Fair play to Daniel Farke. He still went round and applauded all four stands for their support, which with some parts of the ground received both applause and boos in itself. And then everyone had sunk off. And in fairness, Watford got their third goal on 80 minutes, I think, and the final 10 minutes was predominantly a lot of supporters leaving or having already left. So this was pretty disastrous, to be honest, in terms of what you would have hoped for from the game and what Norwich needed to deliver, and poses a lot of questions. Apologies for the lawnmowers, but this is kind of like the noise going on in my head at the moment. It's the noise going on in my head and the fact that Norwich have now lost 15 consecutive Premier League games. It's the noise in my head that Daniel Farke is the first manager to lose 15 consecutive Premier League games ever. It's the noise going in the back of my head that where do they even go from here? Because, in fairness, I agree with Daniel to a degree. Daniel Farke to a degree. I don't think there was much of a tactical issue today. Really, this was purely either two things. Three maybe. A rustiness and a lack of either being together or physical condition, that they just not had the time to work together properly still. It was that mentally they just weren't focused enough, or they aren't good enough. And I guess we'll get the answer to that question over however many remaining games it takes this season. But I have to say, so Norwich are obviously going to take time to gel because they've got a lot of new players in. But you only get one shot at this, and they have to get on with it, and they have to find a way to gel quickly. We could sit here for the next 2 months going, it's going to take time to gel. It might be true, but ultimately, if you take all that time to gel, you get relegated, and then half of them want to get out because it didn't work for them in the Premier League here. What is that of good use to anyone? You just have to get on with it. And there's a lot of this where Norwich just have to get on with it. They have to have a reality check here, because the way they defended in this game was abysmal. No pressure on the cross, which was a lovely one from Enya, but no real pressure going out to it. The header. Every goal was scored with Norwich having far too, enough players around the situation. It was almost like they just switched off, or just weren't tuned in, or were knackered. Emmanuel Dennis comes in. Kabak is basically waiting for the header, doesn't make it because Dennis has got a run on him from behind. It's over Hanley, and he's nipped in and headed home. So that gives Watford a lead and immediately puts Norwich on the back foot. The crowd was just threatening to turn after the half-hour mark when Matthias Norman, making his debut, Kabak was too, of course. Lovely ball in behind. Temu takes it brilliantly well. And I have to say, one of the plus points was that from that point on, I thought Temu looked quite sharp. His feet looked good, and He looked like a man who could kick on from that moment. Bloody hell, Norwich need it. Really great goal. Norwich level. And I'm still thinking you've just got to build on this and take it somewhere. I'm not still happy at this point with a point. I want 3 points. And then what happens in the second half? The goal they concede on 60 minutes was this weird counter where Norwich kind of backed off Watford bringing the ball up from Norwich's attack. They had 7-8 players all back, but they just stopped moving. It was like you visibly saw them all just sort of switch off because like, well, we're back here, let's wait. And then no one broke out in a sprint to do anything defensively minded. And so Josh King gets to the byline, cuts the ball back. Ismaila makes a run to the near post and slots it home. It's an abomination of collective defending. For this level, especially, but championship level, I'd be going, what on earth was that? And to have worked so hard to get yourself into a position, to put so much effort into such an important game, and to be that dozy as a team, I thought was a disgrace. I have to be honest. I know that's strong, but we can only give you so much credit in the bank for a difficult start. When it comes to a big game like this, you've just got to be much better than that. Much better than that. Because everyone in here, for a portion of it, has been sat at home watching these Premier League games unfold where it just was like, oh, we're not good enough, so we'll bin it off. And I think that's the key thing from today. That Project Restart only happens when you're behind closed doors and there's no one there to boo you off. And, there were positive moments. You can see where it's coming together. But if you just don't get the simple basics right and end up losing out like they did today, it is pointless because you will lose so many games. So that second goal, which crushes really so much of Norwich's hopes for winning this game, because they were probably thinking like me, let's not just draw this, let's win it. You then go behind. That's a disastrous moment in the match. And the switching off was horrendous. I know Josh King had a lot of space, but it was a collective switching off. And I think Max Aarons, I don't know where he should have been at that point, but he turns around and flails his arms in the air, which, to be fair, he does do for a lot of goals that Norwich concede. But it did sum it up. It summed it up. Whether he should have done more himself, I don't know. I need to watch it back. But it summed up the reaction to that moment. Then on 80 minutes, Kenny McLean skies a clearance inexplicably. Kabak's got his arm in the air. I think that's the fourth goal now Norwich have conceded whilst someone's got their arm in the air. And it was clearly onside. So as far as, as if the second goal wasn't bad enough defensively, that third one would be horrendous enough on its own. So, and that kills the game. Norwich did have some pretty decent openings, and I thought they attacked well for a lot of it, but they never looked quite as good going forward as Watford did. Watford, I thought, looked sharper, and it's interesting that Xisco Munoz said how he felt Watford had control of the game for most of it. They put in a mature display for most of the game, and he noticeably put in his experienced hands into the 11 for that very reason. And you know what? Fair play, because it worked, I thought, at some of the key moments. And as much as Danny Rose should have been booked after about his fourth foul, it didn't happen. And that's that, isn't it? What do you do? It's just the battle of gamesmanship at that point. Suggestion, possibly Norwich should have had a penalty when Rose fouled Milot Rashica in the box. But I didn't think... he gave the foul, he gave it for a handball as Milot went down and grabbed the ball. So to me, I didn't really think it was a stonewall penalty. And if it was, then Kabak conceded one later in the second half. So it's kind of either here nor there really with that one, to be honest. And I've got no interest in pinning anything in terms of the result on that. So some big calls. I think there's a question mark over his call to include Kabak. I was convinced from everything that Daniel Farke had said that Kabak had been short of games and would probably get the Liverpool cup game on Tuesday night to show that he was good to go. Likewise, then Matthias Norman goes in, who has played a bit more football and should be up to speed. I know it's the Russian league, but still, I have to say I thought he was excellent. Actually, I thought Matthias did a really good job, and there's a real promise there. Definitely, I think he's an absolute shoe-in for that role. I think he can do it. I mean, admittedly, this was against Watford, I say that. But, I thought he did okay. So I think that was a positive. But he then came off. But I thought he didn't look as tired as, say, Josh Sargent when he came off. Who ran really well. It's a really interesting dynamic. Josh Sargent played on the right of the three, but constantly drift centrally. So that was an interesting dynamic in itself that I thought worked quite well. It was good, the freedom he had. I've just got the wrong thing on. There you go. So there's positives in that because I thought, as I said, Teemu looked sharper once he got his goal. Especially, I thought Josh ran well, but he got booed when he got taken off by this very area here, the snake pit. But to be fair, I thought he looked absolutely smashed in terms of his levels, and he kind of said that himself. So don't think there was any need to boo that change. But I think it did kind of emphasise where this crowd are. I think they feel embarrassed that this run that Norwich are on, and it poses a lot of difficult questions at the moment because the narrative is different this time around. The narrative is Norwich have the resources to stay up. This is on Daniel Farke to get a tune out of this team for them to look coherent and organised. Now, there's not much he can do about some of the switching off and errors you saw today, but he does need to ram that home and get a reaction really quickly. And I don't mean a reaction against Liverpool in the Cup. That will be good. It will be a changed side. It's a great opportunity for the players to show what they can do, and we'll see what team Jurgen Klopp picks for that game. But it's Everton and Burnley now, two really big away games. And if there's that level of mistakes in either of those two games, then that poses very difficult questions of, as I said, whether Daniel Farke can get more out of this team, whether they're not good enough, whether it's a confidence issue, because they've got to get back to being, they've got to get to a point where they are tighter. Watford had, I think they had an XG all season so far of about 3, and they've doubled that today. And it could have been more. Tim Krul's had to make a number of saves. And as I said, in a Premier League context of a game at home against a team expected to be in the bottom half, that's kind of difficult to stomach. But off the back of everything around this game and everything before it, doesn't half make life very difficult. And as I said, I now, looking back at this game, question the selection of Kabak, because to me, he showed some good things today, definitely. But then in the mistakes, did he show that he wasn't ready? Is that then right that Andrew Omobamidele didn't keep his place, which I know something I was kind of thinking shouldn't happen last week. But then, Ben Gibson's had a good run and he's then got a point to prove. Do you bring him in? Because what have you got now? You've now got, certainly 2 centre-backs who have probably been binned off the back of disappointing performances. You're going to be relying on one of them to come in and show something. Norwich have got to look more solid because it's September and I'm fearing about where this all goes. And I appreciate that a lot of this is probably incoherent and comes from the baggage of 2 years ago. But that's, for as long as it's there, it's hard to ignore, isn't it? It's a new season, but we're seeing similar issues. And when you see the similar issues, you can't then just ignore what has happened before. You take the evidence. And that is going to put pressure on Daniel Farke. There is no way around it. There's no simple way of dressing it up. It is what it is. I'm not saying that means he goes or anyone gets rid of him anytime soon or anything like that. You can't, because of the faith that's been put into him. But it opens up an interesting set of circumstances for how Norwich's season evolves from this point. So we will see how it does. Again, I thought Christos Jolis looked quite good when he came on. At the moment, he's doing far more than Milot Rashica, I have to say. So maybe it would be time for Christos to get another start. We'll see. But certainly Christos will start against Liverpool, I think. We'll see how that game goes. I'll be here on Tuesday night, refreshed and ready as always. It'll be a fascinating game, I'm sure. Heads up, I am at a wedding against Everton. So I am not going to Goodison Park. So you won't get a video ready from me for that game. Maybe Norwich will win there. Everton do have a soft spot for bottom teams at Goodison Park. So maybe Norwich will go win. You'll all tell me never to go to a game again. And I'll have to start busking in the city. Nothing would make me happier. But for now, Norwich have lost 3-1 here to Watford. I don't even know if I've covered off all the details, but if you want to watch Match of the Day or whatever, you'll be able to see that later. Thank you, as always, for watching. Thanks for your comments. I'll have a read back through them. I don't tend to answer them on the video verdict, but we'll have another On The Ball podcast on Monday. Kudos for those who thought last week's was maybe a bit negative. We'll see how we get on this week. But that'll be streamed live on this channel and all the other channels, apart from Instagram. So keep an eye out for that on Monday evening. Loads of stuff on The Athletic over the course of the week. And I'll see you back here at Carrow Road on Tuesday. But let me take down that score because we've seen quite enough of that, haven't we? It has finished 3-1 here to Watford. I mean, they're a team that haven't looked great in the other games. And I get very wary of teams suddenly putting in great performances against Norwich all the time because all that says to me is Norwich aren't good enough. And I think we all know what that looks like. Have a lovely weekend. Remember, it's only football. Go and have a deep breath and a nice dinner. And I'll see you in a few days' time. Take care of yourselves.